Coming up in today's Wine Oh segment, we are skipping dinner and heading straight for desserts. Dessert drinks, that is. We'll be right back. Good job, young barkeep.
For many people, wining and dining stops right after the main course is complete. Even wine aficionados ditch the dessert wine for a cup of coffee. In this edition of Wine Oh, Central Valley Today's Monique Soltani shows us why partaking in port, dessert wine, or ice wine is something you might want to warm up to.
Whether you call it Vino de Porto, O Porto, or simply port, the fortified wine is a favorite finishing touch. This edition of Wine Oh brings us to Campagnia, where we find in the world of fine dining, the best is often saved for the last course. Campagnia wine director Ben Ferris is here to help us pair the decadent duo of desserts and after-dinner drinks. This is the best topic, Ben, I have to say.
Not too bad.
Not too bad. It's a tough gig. What do we need to know about pairing desserts and after-dinner drinks?
Couple simple rules that everyone can abide by. When you're going chocolate, when you're going dark chocolate, you want to stick probably with ports, preferably a ruby port. Ruby ports are aged in stainless steel, and the character of the wine doesn't really change over time. So it has a very fruity character and a very luscious character that really helps accent the bittersweet chocolate. When you're dealing with cream-based desserts, such as cheesecakes or anything with an anglaise, if you ever are dealing with anything heavy in cream, you probably want to use something like a dessert wine or an ice wine.
Now, what's that? What's an ice wine?
Ice wine is made from white wine grapes that have been left on the vine long enough to freeze for 3 consecutive days. Then which usually happens around Christmas time. So you hear a lot about people harvesting at Christmas or on New Year's, and basically then they press those frozen grapes and a syrup comes out that's very high in sugar, very concentrated sugar-wise.
So it's going to be a sweeter wine then,
yes,
because it
very
was
sweet,
left on the vines longer?
Most ports, as well as dessert wines, are fairly sweet, have a large amount of sugar in them.
People, when they go out to dinner, they might not know that a port wine's really sweet and they pair it with a sweet dessert. They might be afraid to do that, but talk about how they complement each other.
Well, a lot of people try to contrast dishes, but when it comes to dessert, you really want to complement. With red ports, you go with a darker dessert. With dessert wines such as ice wine or late harvest white wines, you really want to go with a lighter dessert.
So you can match colors even when you're
absolutely
thinking about dessert. So tell us about the port that you chose to pair with this dessert.
All right. Well, this is Fonseca's Ben 27. Port from Oporto in the Douro Valley in Portugal, which is in the northern part of Portugal, right off the coast. Basically, all ruby ports, as I already said, they don't age in oak, so they don't oxidize. They keep a very young, fruity, fresh kind of flavor, which is really what you want with a chocolate kind of dessert. If you go into tawny ports or vintage ports, all of those wines are aged in oak, so they micro oxidize and they lose.
What does that mean?
It means that they gain complexity, but they also lose some color. And those ports are really meant to be drunk by themselves. As you go into vintage ports, LBVs, and tawny ports, you start to spend a bit more money, and you don't want to waste that on dessert.
Okay,
it's almost like a dessert in itself.
Okay, so that's like your proper dessert, just having the
having
nice
a little
vintage
bit of
port.
Absolutely.
Oh, good vintage port. Now I'm getting thirsty. All right, let's move on to the next wine that you chose.
Okay, this is going to be King Estate's Vingloss, which is a late harvest Pinot Gris. It's not an ice wine because where it's produced in Oregon, it doesn't get that cold for that amount of time that it has to. Sometime in late November, early December, they'll pick that fruit and then they'll press it just as they would an ice wine, and because the water's not frozen, it's just evaporated, you still get that same kind of honey-esque texture about the wine.
So it's
syrupy
very nice
almost.
Syrupy sweet almost.
Absolutely.
And then tell us about the dessert that you chose to pair with it and why.
This is our house-made cheesecake with a little bit of lemon zest, as well as some fresh fruit on the plate. Basically, it's a nice light cream-based dessert that they just accent each other perfectly. There's a little bit of citrus character to the wine, which really helps with the candied lemon zest. and it's just a perfect pairing.
So here at Campagnia, when people are done with their dinner and they want to extend their party to the bar, say, you have a really extensive list of after-dinner drinks. Tell us about those.
Our most popular after-dinner drink would have to be the Cafe Campagna, which is going to be your regular coffee with Bailey's, Frangelico, and Grand Marnier. That seems to be the most requested after-dinner drink we have, as well as maybe the champagne cocktail, or maybe even a Kir Royale.
Ooh, a little Kir Royale and a champagne cocktail. I'll take 2, please. Hey, Ben, thank you so much. That was great. We'll toss it back to you, Alex.